ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news tonight out of Williamsburg, Virginia, where we've just found that Busch Gardens Williamsburg has applied for a height waiver for a new project entitled Busch Gardens Madrid. Now, Danny, you may remember back a few weeks ago, we posted an update on the height balloon story. Now, BGW fans have said that height balloon test was actually for 315 feet tall, and now we have this waiver application for this height waiver. So some people are saying that maybe 2019, maybe not so much 2018, because 2018 we have the new VR experience on Europe in the Air. So this could be for 2019. And what could they possibly do for a 315 foot tall attraction?
I have a real hard time figuring out where they're going with this. The reason being they already have a drop tower. So you had thought immediately Falcon's Fury, but it would seem odd to put in another drop tower so quickly. Immediately people are going to go to a Giga Coaster. I don't know if that's necessarily what we're looking at here. I would love a Giga Coaster. Don't get me wrong. I don't know if that's what's going on here. Maybe an observation tower, but those seem so outdated. It doesn't, nobody's building those. You have a wind seeker up the road, so that kind of seems out of the picture. Maybe a sky screamer / star flyer type of ride at 315 feet. I don't know where you go with that in terms of a theme. Because there's the running joke at Busch Gardens Williamsburg that anytime anyone picks up a shovel, the rumors that Spain is coming, start to fly around, and people always thought that Spain would be coming. Yeah, exactly. And people always thought that, when they build Spain is when they'll finally get the wood coaster. Well, they found the way to work the wood coaster into New France. So if they did Spain, then you'd have to come up with a different idea in terms of what you're going to do as a signature attraction. I'm just going to do a little, you can share your thoughts here, but I'm going to do a little Wikipedia-ing real quick while you give your thoughts here.
Well, the issue is that, a lot of people have always been asking for that Drakenfire-like ride. People want that, Busch has been working with B&M a lot. Especially Williamsburg. You have Alpengeist, you have Apollo, you have Griffin, three very well-liked B&M coasters, so why not add a Giga? And now you have the Giga Hyper, matchup between the two of them in the park. Some people have been saying, well, this is going to cause the loss of animals. Well, guess what? That's the way the SeaWorld parks are going. They're all... every new attraction is coming at the loss of animals. All the haters out there want them to get rid of the animals and get rid of the whales. So if those same people are gonna bitch that they're losing the animals because of this, then pick a side, folks. Yeah. So it's kind of like I think the animals are going the way of the dodo anyway at the Busch parks. The question though is that with the recent instability with the SeaWorld parks. Can they logically put in a $24-25 million roller coaster that's a Giga after just putting in Invader and playing the small game at San Diego with the electric eel next year, the small game at Texas? Does a Giga coaster even make sense with Intimidator up the road? Would they trying to go into competition, or are they trying to outdo Intimidator 305 and claim the height thing? But the problem is you're only beating it by 10 feet. People generally like I-305. And people generally I would say that the general opinion on Apollo's Chariot is it's a favorable coaster. So unless you're building something like Fury with the speed and the directional change, are you really going to be that different than Apollo in what you build with a Giga? Because if you build a Leviathan, I don't know if that differs enough from Apollo.
Well, the wild card is here. If it were to be a roller coaster, we don't know who's building it. Would be the wild card.
True.
And you and I talked about they've bounced between, B&M, and then they got Premier coming with the electric eel, and, they went GCI for this year. So, it may go last year, then the year before, 2015. We've had Mac, we've had Premier a couple times now. Because we're getting electric eel, and we had Tempesto, we had Zero in there with Verbolten. You've seen Manta, you've seen Mac come in. We've seen a lot of it. We've seen Intamin with Cheetah Hunt. I mean, so is it possible that and then Wavebreaker, exactly. So, we've seen two Intamins, we've seen, we've seen a Mac, we've seen a Zero, we've seen a couple Premiers, we've seen them go B&M down at C. It's really, really a toss-up between, any company that's building roller coasters right now in terms of if Busch Gardens.
Except, I think this is the one part, Danny Miller, where we don't have to speculate RMC.
I would tend to agree with you. Yes,
it's the one park.
Although, if people talk about the wood coaster, coming with Spain. If there is a Spain thing, could they go the way of RMC? I doubt it. I don't see that being in the cards.
Yeah.
No, not at 315 feet. I mean, this isn't a wood coaster we're talking about, anyways. But I don't think this is a roller coaster. I would have to think this is some sort of. What else could be 300 feet tall? I mean, Starflyer, right? That's where I initially go.
Starflyer or Drop Tower are the only other two things. Like I said, Falcon's Fury. Falcon's Fury is 325. But you said you got the Mock Tower already, which, do you take that out? Do you take out, but you said they just built it not too long ago, what, 5 years ago?
5 years ago.
So,
5-6 years ago. I think it was the year before Verbolten.
It's a little too early to be taking that right out. I just don't know. I
mean, it's had its fair share of issues, but, I mean, wouldn't you sink some money into making the one you have work? I mean, it's been better. The last couple times I've gone, it's been open, so I think it's been better than it was when it first opened, but.
I don't see anything else in a Starflyer, over the area. It's a very beautiful park. It might give you a really nice view. The only problem is the Starflyers and even the Windseekers both have the offensive lighting packages, and it would almost be like anti-Busch Gardens to put that lighting package going up that tower. Could you imagine being in the middle of the park?
They aren't allowed to do certain things like that. That's why Griffin is sky blue, because it sticks above the trees. That's why Alpengeist is white, and that's why Mock Tower is sky blue. They do have a certain set of guidelines that they have to follow for things that stick above the tree line, that they have to, not to the extreme case of Alton Towers where they can't stick above the tree line, but they have to do something to help it blend in, which is why Apollo uses the ravine that it's on, because the lift hill is only 170 feet, so it's kind of below the tree line, generally speaking, and then, it drops down into the ravine.
This one,
I'm not quite sure.
This one is really interesting because it's the two things. Is it a coaster? I think we're both kind of leaning towards no. And then the second thing, is this the start of another new land at Busch Gardens for New Spain? And that one's a little tougher because you're in an area that doesn't really have a defined theme. Unless you build a walkway to whatever this is, it's kind of like, do you need a new land at Busch Gardens? Do you need a Spain? Like, what makes Spain any different than what you have in the other sections of the park?
Well, and I even went on the Wikipedia and looked through like the page for Madrid, Spain, just looking for some sort of iconic piece of architecture that's a tower that they can maybe even replicate and put something in. But why would you replicate something that's that large? To make it that large? That I don't think you would want to do that. I mean, there's some. A monument to Christopher Columbus that's on the top of But that doesn't need to be 300 feet tall. I mean, you've got some other things. You've got the Gates of Europe, which has like a tall pillar-like thing behind it, but the Gates of Europe towers aren't.
So basically nothing of note here. So it's kind of like
there's nothing that jumps out at me as something that, that's what they're doing. Not like the Eiffel Tower, right? That's something that is very obviously something that can be replicated and has been replicated several times, both in theme parks and outside of theme parks.
Yeah.
So I don't.
So really, on both fronts here, on both the coaster front and the Madrid part, we're kind of leaning towards the negative side, where I'm not quite sure anything's really happening here. But this is one that we will have to keep looking at, because like we said, we don't think it's for 2018 either. So I think there's going to be a whole year of prep here. And we know that Busch has been announcing things very early. With their new rides, they waited forever to announce Tempesto, and then Invader came out real quick. This new VR experience came out real quick, and so now I think we're going to see another very an idea.
I have to eat my words. I did see in the distance. I did see one of the skyline pictures. I did see a picture of a very large tower called the Torre España. It's almost like a very large Space Needle, or like the CN Tower, but it's got a little bit of a fatter and I don't even know what it's actually for. I think it's a communication tower, like it's a radio tower.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like, but why would you replicate something like that?
Because Williamsburg is also not modern Europe either. So are you going to make it modern Spain?
No, it's not. It's very old school, rustic Europe.
So
it just doesn't seem like something they would want to do anyways. I mean, it's very large, but it serves a purpose, but it looks like a radio tower.
Yeah.
Like, it's a television tower. Like, why would you build a replica of that? It's not like the Space Needle, like where you can go up to the top of it, or like the CN Tower.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear to be. So I really don't have anything that I think, aside from an actual ride itself,
Well, as always, thank you for joining us here on COASTER-net Update, and right on, Ride Warriors.
See you next time, guys.